Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
You are listening to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. And I'm Alanna.
And I'm Kelsey.
And we are back in the New York groove.
Yeah.
For sure. If you listen to our Patreon, you know that this is recorded several days before it's coming out, but that is fine. We are flying by the seat of our pants this week.
Yep. I feel like we've been doing that a lot lately.
Hey, well, some of it's because we were in high demand. So if you haven't listened to it, go listen to our last bonus app that dropped this week, which some of you already did. So I was like, oh, yay.
Yeah, it had quite a few plays on YouTube, on the Creepy Confidential channel, like 35, which is almost as much as a lot of the other ones had. That weren't in the hundreds, and it had only been a day, which was amazing. Some of the other ones have been out for months, and
yeah, and I wonder if that's because they're just audio. But then I know some people listen to their audio podcasts on YouTube, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, this was like the video. She had the whole video up there, so
right, compared to ours, which are usually audio. I mean, sorry.
Yeah. So on on our website, I put the link to. Can't remember if it was, I think our Spotify that we posted for the episode, and then also embedded the YouTube video from Creepy Confidential on there in case anybody wanted to watch the interview. And then over on YouTube, I didn't know how to like copy the video because it's like an hour and a half. So I just put a little like 30-second video and was like, here's the links to watch the interview over at Creepy Confidential.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, because she did the work of like recording the video so then it'll drive some plays to her on YouTube and stuff. And we really appreciate that. It was really actually quite fun, even though we were a little, I was like, oh, I always wanted to do a collab, but then I'm a little nervous because all of a sudden it's like, they're like, it's live, and you're like, what?
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna
edit things.
I'm connecting to Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. And we're like, what's happening?
I was like, oh, you can just like stream live on all of those things.
All the things. We're live. Don't cough. Don't sniff. Don't blow my nose. We're not used to these things because we can see each other all the time, but we don't save that part.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
No, and we apologize. Well, I know my video and the lighting is like, it's not great. Like, you can't
Yours is better than mine. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's not bad right now. Oh, nobody can see this. Anyway, this is great for a non-visual medium. We're now like talking about our lighting.
Yours is always better than mine is, because my
okay.
Yeah.
Yours is kind like your that's true.
Yeah, like your I think your laptop camera is just a bit better too.
Could be. Hers was really good. I was like, oh, she looks very clear and like I can see her face really well and everything. Whereas I feel like I'm more of a blob, but we'll see. We want to do a YouTube video. I keep talking about it. I'll put it out there.
Manifest it.
Manifest it. Yeah, so go check out the Patreon. That was actually really fun. I really enjoyed that recording the Psychic Solved Cases episode.
Yes.
Not so much the material, we just like had a fun time, and then we were talking about other things we want to try out on Instagram. Or Instagram? Is that Patreon?
No.
What? I mean, okay, I guess different things we want to try out on social media, like videos, but also like I like to switch things up on Patreon because I'm like, this is where people don't care if we try something that's a little out of the norm of what we do, and so that's where I'm always like, let's do a cryptid clash and let's do an Ask Me Anything or like a Two Truths and a Lie. Yeah, I have fun letting that be my creative outlet. So go check it out, you guys.
Yes.
And we'll continue to put out some content over there as we always do. I think you can try out like free trials on Patreon now. I keep hearing that from other podcasts. So
Oh, really? That's cool.
yeah, like there's like a free tier so they can like see what you're posting. And Sinisterhood, they were saying they even drop something onto that tier at least once a month. So they're like, even if you're just signed up for free, you get something. And I was like, whoa, look at you guys
cool.
go. I know. But anyway, I got big dreams now that the springtime's hit and my seasonal depression is gone.
Right? I told people at work that I was going to go home and I was going to clear up my depression by opening all of the windows in my house. And they're like, it's kind of windy out. And I was like, I don't care.
You're really going to air out the house.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to create a vortex and papers will be thrown about. But
no, but it was windy driving on the highway. It's that where like you can feel your car kind of moving and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah.
I just remember my feet got a little cold, like just hanging around my house for the last couple hours. So I had, right before we started, I put on slippers and then I had to close all my windows. I was like, I am a little cold now. I've been hiding under a blanket for 2 hours.
But the house is nice and fresh, I'm sure.
Yes. I hate not being able to open windows and just...
I know.
Even that is just such a relief. I don't know. You don't feel so closed in. It can make a big
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when we're searing our roast before we put it in the oven, and sometimes on the cast iron pan it can get really smoky.
Yes.
So just like crack the door or something. Sometimes I can't even get away with that in the summer because Pat's like, the air conditioning, and then like our screen door has a rip in it. But there's like, there's no bugs, it's not hot out yet, and it's really smoky because we're cooking the roast, and then it's like, okay, we can just like crack the window or the door or whatever.
Yeah, my one does that. I've set off the smoke alarm almost every time I've tried to cook steak because I'd use the cast iron. I have a cast iron, like one of the grill ones that has like the like raised ridges on it or whatever.
Okay, but it's still like a frying pan that you put on the stove.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's one of those. You can transfer it to the oven. It's like fully cast iron.
Exactly.
But it starts smoking and then a fire alarm or smoke detector's going off. Gordo doesn't know what the fuck's happening, and I'm just like,
no, they get really hot really fast. Yeah, that's what I find with those ones compared to the regular pans.
Yeah.
Definitely on the cast iron subreddit. Don't ask. It's just people being like, did I put enough butter in for my bacon, with like a huge clunk of butter? And I'm like, who puts butter in before their bacon?
No.
So right?
As if it didn't have enough fat.
Yeah, I've not cooked a lot of bacon in the cast iron, but I think it's just much the same as in the regular frying pan. It provides its own lubrication.
Basically, I normally save bacon grease, and I cook most of my bacon in the broiler like setting on my oven. And then I'll take the bacon off, and then I'll pour like the bacon grease. And I learned it from my mom. I have like a little container of it that you keep in the fridge, and then I use that when I'm cooking like eggs or something, and you just need a little bit, and then something you want to do a little bit of flavor to, you can add a little bit of bacon fat. So I'll normally put a tiny bit of that in to like start it out, just so it doesn't stick initially before it starts making its own grease.
Yeah. Same as like maybe putting in a pat of butter, like not a ton.
Yeah. Oh.
That's funny. Well, any other news? I don't know. No. I was telling you on Patreon, we played that cryptid board game. I'll have to tell my brother, but it was cryptic but fun.
Yeah.
It was complex. There's a lot going on. Yeah. We're trying to figure it out, but that's how it is with the new games and stuff.
Yeah, when you don't know how to play it, it's hard to play if nobody there knows how to play it. If one person does, it's hard enough for you to try and follow along. But when nobody knows how to play it.
Yeah, they were all looking to me like I'm the DM, the dungeon master. You were telling me about that one you play that's kind of like Monopoly, but with like trains and making the train tracks go
Yeah, Ticket to Ride.
along.
It's
I was like,
very
that sounds
popular.
interesting.
The uh the sets of it, they've done a bunch of different countries. They're very expensive, anywhere from like 60 to like
Oh,
$90 each like game. It's very
yeah.
expensive.
I
Yeah.
wonder if that's because people like to collect toy trains and stuff. So
I
they're
don't
like,
know. Like it's a whole collector's thing. There's like different TV show ones they've done where like they've mapped out like certain worlds
oh,
in the show, and then there's like a
ooh.
whole bunch of different countries that they've done all around the world, and it's like a big thing if you have a bunch of the
You
different
just get like
ones.
Game of Thrones Westeros is all run over with
Yeah,
trains now.
probably.
See, it makes sense we have the Game of Thrones wrist, but the
Yeah, that
train
makes
one, I don't know.
sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you got for us today? Because I'll derail this whole conversation. You know I will.
uh I have a case. I think I had heard the name of it before because it seemed very familiar. So there's
Okay.
either another case with a fairly similar name or something like that. Because I once I started getting into the research of it, I realized I like didn't recognize the case itself. Just seemed like the
Oh,
name. So
okay. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I know how that goes where you're like, is this the one where this happened? And then you're like, nope, 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 nope.
yeah.
Oh.
It's called the Ava Blanco case, and that's like I
Oh.
think it's the Blanco, like Ava White, that uh makes me think I had heard it before, but
It does have a sort of
yeah.
a familiar ring to it, I must
Right?
say, but I don't think I
Yeah.
know it. Yeah. Hmm.
Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of background from what I could find,
Yeah,
but
that happens.
Ava was born on February 17th, 1981 in Madrid, Spain. I would
Oh,
love to visit
February
Spain.
baby. Yes. Oh my God. And Portugal? Oh, sounds and Italy?
Yeah.
Oh, it all sounds amazing.
She was the oldest of three girls, and their parents were Manuel Blanco and Olga Pruitt, I think is how you would say it. So
Oh,
they,
Olga.
it's,
I wasn't expecting that.
yeah, they had hyphenated names. So I think sometimes it's referred to the Ava Blanco Pruitt case. Uh,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Pruitt. Hmm.
So jumping straight, because that's literally the only background I have. I'm so sorry. Uh,
No, it happens. It happens. I get it.
straight into the terrible.
Mhm.
It all begins on April 19th, 1997. Oh my god, it's
Oh.
almost April 19th. Ava, who by this
Oh.
right, I was like, oh, I did not realize that before.
Yeah, this comes out in April.
Yeah, damn.
Okay, yeah.
It'll be an anniversary. Uh, Ava, who at this point is 16 years old, she's a high school student, and she had spent the afternoon playing tennis with her friends. And later that night, this same group decided to go to like a local disco nightclub, and they were there until about
Oh.
11:30 when they started to kind of make their way home.
Wow, I can't believe she can get into a disco as a teenager. When
Right? It's a pretty small town, so I feel like everybody kind of knew
Mm.
most people.
And this was the year of our Lord 1997?
Yeah.
You said.
Yeah,
Amazing. Great year. Okay.
I was only two. Uh
Damn it, that's right. That's not your birth year. It's 95.
no.
Fuck
Yeah.
around.
Ava had agreed to return home at midnight, like that was her curfew, and she was one of the first
Okay.
of her friend group to leave the disco.
Oh no, by herself though? I already
Not
know it is.
initially.
Oh,
So
okay.
her and a a friend of hers that was a girl. They were walking, and then they parted ways at this vacant lot that was about 700 meters away from Ava's home. And like, I presume from almost that distance, like they probably could have seen her house, or
Yeah,
like pretty
that's not
close to it.
far.
No,
Not,
like,
not even a kilometer. Yeah.
yeah.
Spitting
Uh,
distance.
yeah. So they parted ways there, at about 11:45, and Ava planned to walk through the vacant lot as it was a shortcut, as opposed to walking the longer route through the town center. And it was noted that many of the local students and other people used the shortcut to walk to school. So, like, it was pretty well known. Um,
Yeah. An
but
unofficial path kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sadly, Ava never reached her home, as
Oh,
you would kind of sadly assume.
yeah, I know, but it's so heartbreaking when you say how close she was.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Ava, so she was always on time. So when she failed to show up by midnight, about 15 minutes later, Ava's mom started calling her friends, like Ava's
Mm.
friends, and being like, "Yeah, have you seen my daughter? Is she on her way home? What's happening?" And all of the friends told her that like she had already left. She had actually left first, and that she should pretty well already be home. Like they didn't know why she wasn't there.
Oh, oh no.
Yeah, Ava's mother called the husband, Manuel, who's a tow truck driver, and he started searching for Ava in town with the help of his nephew, who was a local police officer. Um,
Oh, okay.
so, like, they started searching right away, and this nephew, the police officer, he was also the father of one of Ava's friends. So it seemed like right
Um,
away, like her friends and her friends' parents all like really got involved in searching her for her in the first couple
good.
hours.
Yeah, so it was taken seriously, especially because of the people they knew, like in on the
Y-
force and stuff.
by them, at least, the police didn't
Oh,
really care, which it really
oh
sucks.
no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, so after finding no trace of her, her parents did report her missing at 1 a.m. So about an hour later, and by then it was April 20th, 1997. And
Still
the
pretty quick
officers,
though. Like could have
yeah,
been the
like
next day
yeah,
before they
like they acted
realized.
really fast. They knew she's never late. We haven't heard from her. Her friends say she was on her way home.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Not looking
yeah.
good.
Officers were reluctant to search for Ava after only being missing for an hour, and the guard at the door
Mm.
even told them that children her age were all on drugs and that she was probably lying in a doorway. Um,
Oh, nice.
some other sources said the quote was like that she was probably lying in a hallway, like passed out. And it's like,
Great.
really? That's like the
Just
guard at the police station. Like, why do you still have a job? You suck.
oh, the guard at the police station,
Yeah.
not the guy at the club. I think I
I
was.
don't I don't think so. Because it
Ugh.
always talked about that in relation to them reporting her missing to the police. So it seems
Oh
like that was the one that
no.
was like posted at the door, like
Yeah,
reception or something.
and then we all have that kind of like I don't know, not stereotype, but maybe misbelief that like all missing person cases have to be like missing for 24 hours when
Yeah.
that's not always true. Like if you suspect foul play or yeah,
Yeah.
they're minors and things like that obviously makes a huge difference and
Yeah.
the police should care, but yeah, it's like it doesn't always get the attention, I guess.
No, this one they didn't seem to care.
Hmm.
So that was about 1 a.m. when that's all going on. By 2:30, the search for Ava was continuing, this time with finally the help of the civil guards, local police, and all of Ava's friends and family. And when
Wow.
hours had passed and Ava still could not be located, her parents contacted a regional TV station and actually requested a like broadcast to be put out for help, and asked the public for information, and that was done by noon, like that morning, so like 12 hours after she was missing. Yeah.
Okay. That's not
Yeah,
bad. She's so hesitant. I'm like, ah.
Well, they did a lot of stuff where, like, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, they run away all the time, and then they don't do anything for like 6 days, and you're like, but your child was missing.
Yeah, it's different if you're the parent.
Yeah.
You're not the one being like, oh yeah, it's probably just a runaway. Like that's horrible if that's anyone's first default assumption. It's like
Right? Why
innocent
does
until
everybody
proven
think
guilty.
all of the kids want to run away from every family?
Exactly. Like, come on. If they're calling the cops, like, then it's not. They usually probably don't have a history of it, or whatever. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, so this broadcast goes out. It was noted by, I think, at least one source that Ava's father had visited local civil guard station about 15 times during the first night, and he criticized them for not searching the rural roads or using vehicles during the search that was happening
Oh,
before sunrise, except for one short 20-minute run through town that they made, that they used vehicles for. Otherwise, they didn't during the night, which is kind of
okay.
stupid.
Yeah.
They cl-
They're still mobilizing though. It's the first night, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They
Yeah. I'm
claimed
just
that
trying
they
to be like
didn't.
devil's advocate. Sorry.
They claimed they didn't do it earlier because it was customary to wait some hours after a missing persons report and starting the search. Which, no.
Yeah, I can see it because it's like wasting manpower all the time if it's not something
Yeah.
serious. But still, yeah, I can tell it's not going to end up well in
But
this
like
case,
they
unfortunately.
didn't call immediately. They had already searched for an hour themselves with people all through town.
Yeah,
So,
right.
like, they had already tried themselves, so now they needed the police. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
something else said that they, um, which is the thing that they declined, but her father said that he was told um, initially that they didn't use vehicles because didn't have any gas. And then when he kind of took it to the public and was like, yeah, they told me they didn't have gas, they were like, no, it's actually because it's customary to wait this many hours. And he's like, well, you told me it was because you didn't have gas. Like,
Wow.
yeah.
Why would you
So,
even say that?
like, isn't that so weird? I don't
Yeah,
have
at what
gas.
point is that a better reason slash
Yeah, right?
excuse? Because I can hardly
It's
call it a
awful.
reason. Yeah. Wow.
Um, yeah. So,
Shaking my head.
uh, really the next thing is uh one of the most unfortunate, and that's them finding Ava Blanco. Her body was
Oh.
found the next day at
Oh.
9 a.m. by two elderly residents, and it was next to a road construction site that was between Kobina and Belvis de Jarama,
Oh, okay.
maybe. About
So
six
a construction
kilometers.
area, you said?
Yeah, like a construction site. Next
Mm-hmm.
to a road construction site. So,
Okay, so out
um,
of the way, not a lot of traffic and stuff like
yeah,
that.
it was about 6 kilometers away from Algete, and
Okay.
initially residents thought she might have been run over, like because it was right by the road,
Oh,
and
okay.
the civil guard noticed that Ava was found face down, and she actually had several stab wounds in her back. And they
Yeah,
determined
that's
that.
not gonna be something that comes from a car. Like,
You mean tires aren't made of knives? Uh,
if that's what they were going for, like, no, it's not working.
yeah.
Oh my god.
Uh, yeah, so these stab wounds were made, they determined while she had been running away from an attacker.
Oh my
So,
god.
yeah. Seems like she was trying to fight back as best she could.
Damn.
Yeah. She was wearing the same jeans and dark sweater. The mountain boots she had been last seen in. Like, you went to a nightclub in mountain boots. Okay. I thought that was a little okay.
Like a Doc Martens girl. You know, but like you'll wear
Maybe.
like a skirt and then you like I had these
The
knee-high
combat
like
boots.
laced up boots. Yeah. And
Yeah.
they just kind of like balance out the femininity of the skirt and make a nice contrast. Like I get it.
Yeah.
Also, she's a practical girly, I guess. I don't know. She's like, I
Yeah.
want to dance and I don't want to hurt my ankles.
Yeah. They believed that Ava and her killer had been driven to the scene, like they had got there by vehicle. However, there had been a heavy rain, like over that first 24 hours, that had already washed away any of the tire tracks and most other forensic evidence that could have been found at the scene.
Oh.
There was only a couple pieces of forensic evidence that they ever really had. One of those surviving pieces was some footprints from Ava and some from a man who had been wearing size 42 moccasins.
What?
Yeah, I should have looked up. I think that's just a European size. I can't remember what the conversion is, but
it does sound weirdly large because like shoe sizes are like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or whatever.
yeah, I think the conversion it's probably like maybe 11 or 12. Like it's not abnormal because at my work we do like up to size 44 I think for men's, so that would be probably like 13 at least. Yeah, the European sizes are like all
the
all
sizing
different.
charts are
Yeah.
all different. Yeah. Also moccasins, damn. Can you
Yeah,
ever I
isn't that
wore some
weird?
of those at King's Landing historical settlement, and can you ever feel every fucking pebble under your feet if you're walking on a
Yeah.
like stone road or whatever? Like yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't suck.
Oh yeah.
um so they found her body at 9. It seems it was reported to police about that time, but the civil guard
Okay.
notified Ava's family that they had found her body not until like 3:30. So like fucking
Ooh.
8 hours later, which I think, or 6.5-ish hours later, which I think really sucks.
Yeah, I
Like,
wonder why
I don't
the
know.
delay.
I didn't find anything that really talked about why that might have been.
Right. I get they're processing the scene, but like you could let the family know. Hopefully before the press does.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh yeah. Once it broke to the public, it caused a huge commotion in Algete, a town of only 12,300 people.
Oh
So
my
it is
gosh.
pretty small.
It is.
With virtually no history of violence. Like,
Oh.
um,
Oh.
yeah.
It broke their
This part,
peaceable little town, their little village.
right? I feel like the town really banded together for the family, though, because it said that night at 7 p.m., at least 200 people gathered silently in front of the Blanco home to condemn her murder. So they just like stood
Oh.
in front of the house.
Okay.
And Ava Blanco's funeral was held on April 23rd and was attended by over 2,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
So it affected a lot of people. I think it's like the violence of it, and
Yeah.
because she was so young, and it's probably a fairly close community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it sounds like it had a major impact. It's just like, wow, 2,000 people
Yeah.
at your own funeral. Can you even think
Yeah.
that that's gonna happen to someone who's not violently taken from us or whatever? Yeah,
Right.
crazy.
So getting into autopsy. This is where it just gets worse. It just gets worse and worse. Um
Should I go refill my drink now or
it's
no?
not the worst one either of us has ever talked about, but it still sucks.
Right.
Like uh
Okay.
yeah, Ava's autopsy revealed that she had been stabbed in the back 19 times before she died of blood loss at around 4 a.m., which broke my
Wow. In the
heart because
back.
yeah,
Sorry. Yeah.
it broke my heart that they put her time of death at 4 a.m. because they started searching for her at midnight. So she died 4 hours later. And if they could
Ah,
have presumably found her like within 4 hours.
right.
Like that breaks my heart.
Yeah, like there's times when it very much warrants a quick response because
Yeah.
you have the opportunity to possibly save someone. Yeah, that sucks. Like the window being so
Yeah.
narrow like that. You're just like, what if just like one more minute happened? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
damn it.
The murder weapon was this be like navaja. It's a traditional Spanish folding blade, fighting and utility knife. It looks like wild. It almost looks like a hunting knife,
Oh,
but it's a
okay.
lot more I don't know, artistic looking, like ceremonial. Yeah,
It sounded
there
like a
is a
small
couple.
switchblade the way you said it, what it
Yeah,
comes
it like
out or
folds
whatever.
in. It folds
Right.
in.
To
Kind of.
its sheath. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
There is a couple pictures on the drive of like Ava and the knife and
Oh.
stuff.
Oh, okay.
Um, so
Okay.
the knife itself is between 8 and 10 centimeters long and 1 centimeter wide. So that's what they determined the blade used for her was. The first stab wound was made while she was sitting in the vehicle at the time. Like they presumed she was in a vehicle. And then the rest after she had made
Um,
it out of the car and started to run away, trying to escape up a slope that was next to the road.
oh my
Um,
God.
yeah. Many of the
Brutal.
wounds mostly were found on her ear and the back of her head, were superficial and even interpreted as passionate. It was just like, oh, gross.
Okay.
Like I don't understand when they talk about like wounds to her ear and the back of the head.
Oh,
But
and then being passionate? I'm going like a crime of passion, obviously. You can't
yeah,
stab someone like almost 20 times and not be
right.
emotional about it. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck? Oh, she's
Um,
just beautiful, too.
yeah.
Yeah.
They said this
Okay, I
was
see the
in
knife. Sorry, I wanted to let you know that
yeah,
I've got.
isn't
I
it
see
like
the.
it's kind of
Yeah, it has
wild
a
looking.
very interesting shaped blade that's kind of like curves. Yeah, I see why you're
Yeah.
like,
It's like
yeah, hunting knife.
ceremonial. It reminded me of like a
Yeah,
Sikh
for
like
sure.
ceremonial knife almost.
Ooh.
But yeah.
As per forged in fire, there's some sort of a fuller along the blade. No, I don't want to like this blade, and I don't like any of this because it's a
Yeah.
horrible story. Okay.
Um yeah, so these other wounds that she had were in contrast to the first like stab wound that was described as deep and they believe would have been fatal all by itself, like let alone the
Oh,
other 18 times she was stabbed and whatever other wounds she had.
yeah.
Yeah. Um Originally they said that she had like sex recently and that the same man's semen was found in her mouth, vagina, and underwear, which more on that later because they're like, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sex or
uh
rape? Because,
right. A
okay.
red fiber was also found in Ava's mouth and it was identified as a
Mm.
common type of car upholstery. And this
Oh my
finally was
God.
what confirmed that she had been transported to that construction site in a car. So, like, they had that theory
Oh.
before, but this really cemented it when they're like, oh, well, like, she had upholstery. Like, how else would you get car? Like,
Mhm.
why would you chew on car upholstery
Yeah,
or have
especially
that in your
you're
mouth?
killed somewhere other than a car. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but why is it they always like if you listen to true crime for a while, you might hear people saying that like it always comes back to maroon fibers. And then when you say like red fiber, I'm like,
Yeah.
holy shit, why?
I
Just
don't know.
these little distinctive things that they can find.
I think yeah, like they can figure out what the fibers are made of, they can figure out what dyes are used, and I learned
Oh,
there's
it's
also like
crazy.
a crazy registry that I think car manufacturers actually log that information into so that it helps like them solve crimes.
Good.
Uh yeah, because this it
Yeah.
said like that the National Car whatever registry database provided that hit and like
Ye-
identification of because they figure out what vehicles like have that upholstery.
Okay, yeah, the
So
make and model at least.
yeah, there's a few of them
Hmm.
it seemed like that had that, but um So her body was found dressed. It showed no previous signs of violence, like other than what happened, like no bruises or anything like that. And both the coroner and officers at the time believed that the sex that she had recently had been consensual, and that they believed that the murder was the result of an argument that could have happened afterward. So,
okay. So
yeah.
maybe no signs of sexual assault as far as they could tell, possibly.
Yeah. Blanco's
That's
parents.
difficult to prove.
Yeah, so that's what the police say. This is what
Right.
Blanco's parents say. They thought that their
Okay.
daughter had been kidnapped and
Uh-oh.
raped at knife
Oh.
point and then murdered to
Oh.
cover it up. So that's what they're working with, which that's awful.
Okay. So maybe they don't know if she was sexually active or not and didn't want to think that she
Yeah.
was.
I'm not
Possibly.
sure.
Just
I
speculating,
didn't
but
I didn't ever really run across anything that was talking about that.
mm,
Again, there wasn't a lot of backstory to really like get into with this one.
right. Yeah, which like I
Um
can respect, but also makes it hard to research. Yeah.
yeah. So, the Civil Guard initially believed that the case would be closed after a fairly short investigation. Their dominant theory was that a single person who was known to Ava had approached her in a car, offered her a ride, which she had accepted, and they had then driven her to the construction site, which was a known lover's lane, where the two had had sex before she was murdered. So that's what they believed, and they're
Okay.
like, we just have to find the person. Um,
Right, because it seemed like she like willingly got in the car, and so they can kind of base some of it on
yeah.
that.
So their first suspect was Ava's ex-boyfriend. They had recently broken up, and I think one source like, oh, I think I say his name later on. He comes up again. I don't know why I didn't like go back and put it in here. I think it's like Miguel or something.
Okay.
He was ruled out after being questioned by police. So like they believed he had no
Mm,
involvement. Um, They then decided to focus on any adult men that were close to the Blanco family and that Ava would have known and accepted a ride from, as all of her friends said that she would never get into a car with a stranger.
right, and
So,
most of them were there still at the party.
yeah, because she was the first
I
one to
think.
leave, or
Okay.
one of the first. So, yeah, like they're working on the investigation. It comes to May 29th. The government announced that the case was more complicated than originally thought, and that they could now not rule out that a stranger had forced Ava into the car. Um,
Oh,
yeah. So, while
okay.
investigating, police kept the existence of these semen samples that they had collected from the Blanco family and had not released that information to the public.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, because of this, like withholding this, they actually kind of covertly collected DNA samples from all the male relatives and even acquaintances of the Blanco
Mm,
family, all in
okay.
secret, and compared them against the sample. It
Right.
said
And
even
that's
Ava's.
interesting that they didn't have to get the permission, but smart. Seems smart.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
even Ava's father's DNA was collected from a
Ooh.
cigarette that he smoked at the police station during one of his interviews.
Okay.
Other samples were collected as either unrelated blood alcohol tests or even just from cups and glasses that had been used in bars. It's
That's
like a
crazy.
fucking PI like movie would do digging outside in the trash can. Like,
Exactly. Well, because they can. Yeah. Once it's in the
yeah,
trash, I think it's public property. And that's why, I don't know, Pat is always one to say how people can learn a lot from going through your trash and stuff like that.
they can learn how unhealthy I eat.
Yeah, that too.
That's for sure.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry.
So they collected, like, covertly collected all these DNA samples. Although no matches were made, the Civil Guard remained convinced that the killer was an adult male resident living in the town or a nearby town. So they, like,
Okay,
still trying to,
well,
yeah.
seems fair enough. Like,
Yeah,
probably
like, obviously.
it's someone that lives
uh,
nearby. It's usually a guy. Just saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
So jumping into like the next thing, it is about 8 months after the murder now, when Olga, Ava's mother, actually finds these two like diaries or notebooks that are hidden between the drawers in Ava's room. Which
Between
I
the
thought,
drawers.
yeah, they were labeled 95 to 96 and 96 to 97.
The
And
last 2 years of her life.
yeah,
Oh my god.
they were handwritten by Ava, and the last entry, my understanding was like the day before her murder.
Oh my god.
And
And
it's
she
not
hid
super.
them. So
Yeah,
crazy. Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out like how she hid them between the drawers. They're just like
I don't really know. Like, is it taped to the bottom of one of them? I don't fucking know.
right? Do you think that
Yeah,
would get in the way of opening the drawer?
maybe.
Interesting.
It's not super thrilling. Most of the pages only contained Ava and Miguel, the name of her ex-boyfriend, written over and over in different color pens. Like, just
Yeah. She was
two
a
whole
teenager,
notebooks
right?
of like hundreds of pages of this is a little crazy, though.
Oh no. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
bit obsessive a little bit.
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Yeah.
It didn't talk about anything. It said most of the pages. It didn't talk about what anything else was written in it other than
Mhm.
this last one, which was 2 pages before the last entry. Ava and Miguel, that was like written over and over again, was replaced with Ava and 343110 over and over again.
Ew. That
Isn't that creepy?
made me literally like shiver for some reason.
It's one of the reasons I picked this case because I was
Oh.
like, what the fuck? Uh
And
all
it looks like it's like
attempts
they
it's
crossed
just the
out
numbers.
Miguel or
No, instead of her writing Ava and Miguel, it just suddenly was replaced with Ava and 343110 over and over again.
weird. Yeah, that's cryptic. You know that's
Right?
cryptic.
Yeah. All
Oh
attempts
gosh.
to find the meaning of 343110 were unsuccessful, with some hypothesis revolving around the fact that 34, the first two numbers, is the phone prefix for Spain, and that 110
Oh.
is the town, like nearby town, Algete, it's their postal code. Um, which
Okay.
is weird, like, uh, yeah. Ava's father, this I just think is so funny if it's true, because I mean we actually still don't know what this means. They've never figured it out.
What the numbers
Uh
mean?
no. That's why I'm like, this is so
Right.
intriguing. I want to know
Oh
what
my
this means.
gosh.
This is Ava's father's theory, and that is that the number 343110 is the number of a pager that was given in a Coca-Cola like promotion or like TV ad at the time. So I'm like,
Oh.
thrilling. But so random. I don't know.
Because he saw that there was a pager number at the time used in an ad? I'm like,
I
how did he
guess
come
so.
to this
Like, just that
conclusion?
number was like the number on the Coca-Cola ad.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't
It's like
know.
when you had the
Weird.
pizza commercials with the Greco 3103030.
Yeah.
Give me the
Yeah.
phone number.
Yeah, maybe.
What?
Yeah, it's just weird. While others trying to figure out what it meant, believe that it could be like a coded name. But again, they've never figured this out. So
Yeah.
just like boom, just a random in the middle of this case.
I
Um
know that's the thing about codes though. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, it could be a name, it could be a date. Like if you don't have the right what's
Yeah.
the thing that cracks the code? Like the thing.
Like a
Like
cipher?
the key
Is
to
that
it.
what
Yeah, the
Oh,
cipher,
yeah.
the key. Then like
Yeah.
you're never gonna figure it out if it's written in
Yeah, it's
a
weird.
specific, yeah, cryptic code. Ooh, so
Yeah, so
weird.
that's just a random thing I thought was interesting. One of the reasons I wanted to cover the case, because it was like, that's so random and it's not explained at all. Uh,
Damn.
but
So
yeah.
many numbers. What do
Um,
they mean?
Right? Have fun trying to sleep tonight. Uh
I'm already 34111 what?
343110.
There's a lot. Some of that. There's some threes and some fours in my birthday. I was trying to figure
Yeah.
out dates and things. Already, my mind's trying to decrypt it and see if it lines up to
Right?
anything that I know. But no.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know exactly when, but this was, I'd say, at least a year or so after Ava's murder, but her family was finally informed of these DNA samples that had been collected at the scene.
Oh.
And yeah, the Blanco family actually started a campaign for all the town residents to voluntarily provide their DNA, and the plan was even backed by the mayor. Um,
Okay, so they told
like,
them about it, but not because they'd actually found any matches in the
yeah,
DNA
I don't really
samples?
know why they told them about
Oh.
it, but um,
Yeah,
however,
that seems very disheartening almost.
yeah,
Oh.
the plan was blocked by the Spanish judicial organizations. They said that it was a
Oh.
simple-minded and useless plan, and they even said that it could cause
Oh.
stigma for anyone who refused to voluntarily provide their DNA, which, I mean, fair.
So who
It is a
fucking
small town,
cares?
but
You should have some suspicion or something on you if you refuse to provide DNA for a case that everybody wants
yeah,
solved. I
right?
think.
Yeah. Um,
What are you
the
hiding?
nice thing is that the town once again had the families back, and even though it wasn't this huge campaign, Ava's father ended up receiving 2013 samples from different residents of
Oh wow.
Algiet, and even nearby towns sent DNA samples, and they were actually stored at
Oh,
a local courthouse until they could figure out what to do with them and how to test them all.
holy
Um,
shit. Wow. They had such an influx. They were just ah, put them
yeah, they
somewhere.
didn't know what to do with it. They determined that they
Wow.
couldn't feasibly test all of these samples, it just wouldn't be time productive and it would
Oh
cost too
no.
much money. So
Okay,
as a
I kind
res
of see,
yeah.
because if they're not all suspects. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. It's just, yeah, just random people.
Mm, yeah.
So as a result of this, only about 45 samples were tested. They focused on the relatives and acquaintances of the Blanco family and people who had any sort of criminal record, especially those with sexual assaults or stabbings.
Right. And in the area. I mean, that makes sense. Those are all
Yeah.
the kind of things that cops know to do. Narrow it down.
Uh,
Hmm.
from Wikipedia, this is kind of interesting. Um, it said by 2007, so big time jumps I have coming up. There's a lot of years we pass through where not much happens.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
because it started in 1997, right?
yeah, so this is from Wikipedia. It said by 2007, 30 officers had worked in the case, and information on similar cases had been requested from other law enforcement offices during the or including the Arizontaza, I'm not sure what that is, and the FBI. A specialist from the
Wow.
University of Santiago re examined the DNA evidence and concluded that it belonged to a man of not European descent. 6 years
What?
later, yeah, because as
Oh, that's
DNA, I guess, is evolving, they can test more on the
uh-huh.
samples.
Right.
Yeah. 6 years
It's
later, in 2013, the number of people investigated who were kind of suspects, or they had looked into, risen to about 1,503, and 208
oh.
men from Algiet and other towns had had their DNA tested, including criminals who were on leave at the time of murder. A new examining magistrate allowed the opening and checking of the 2013 envelopes that contained the names of the volunteers that had provided their DNA back in
Wow.
1999, but they didn't allow the testing of all the DNA samples, but they allowed them to unseal who had provided the samples voluntarily to try and use that
Oh,
as an investigation point. I don't know.
really? I'm
Yeah.
I So then you could see who at least voluntarily submitted samples, I guess. I
Just
don't know
see
what
like,
else.
okay, maybe we don't need to like look at these people at all. Yeah.
You would hope, but isn't
Yeah.
that not always the case?
The next break is a good one. It's also in 2013. A program called Ava, a Cold Case, was aired on television to bring the case back into the public eye. And many of those who investigated over the decades were interviewed. And a criminologist on the show publicly rejected the theory of her having a secret boyfriend, and that she most likely would not have met someone that close to her curfew. Again, she was within sight of her house. She was supposed to be, her curfew was in 15 minutes. Like, she's not going to go hook up with somebody in the vacant parking lot.
Right. Most people seem to agree that was not kind of in her nature.
Yeah.
To flout the rules or whatever.
Yeah. Didn't seem like it.
Yeah, well, that's something to be said for that.
Right? The criminologist said that she was likely a victim of someone who maybe had stalked her, or even just somebody who barely knew her, was a total stranger, and that the lack of defensive wounds could have been the result of her being threatened before ultimately agreeing to have sex with her attacker. So, like, she would have been like forced into it through like coercion and threat of violence and that kind of stuff. So that's maybe why it didn't appear like she was raped, but it would have been part of the attack.
Yeah, if someone rolls up next to you with like a gun pointing out their window, you might be more inclined to get in the car, even if you don't know them, and you wouldn't normally do that because you're like, well, what am I gonna do to survive now?
Yeah.
Ugh. Damn it.
Yeah. After the program aired, a woman reported to authorities that she had seen a suspicious man in the road construction site at around 8 a.m. So this is like hours after Ava had died. He was walking in the rain with no umbrella, and he looked like he had not slept that night. She said that this man appeared to be looking for something at the construction site before getting into a white Renault 18. Yeah, so she
I feel like I've heard of that car. Okay.
Right? I thought I had to.
Yeah.
I miss old cool car names. Now it's just like, what, there's like 7 car manufacturers and that's all you get?
Maybe that's like the European version of Toyota. Like, what do we know?
Yeah.
I don't
know. So like she came forward after seeing this program and was like, hey, I might have this like person I saw. So the civil guard believed her, as a Renault 18 had actually previously been reported by multiple other witnesses over the years, like separately, and that the car model did have the same fiber that they had retrieved, like from the upholstery from Ava's body. Yeah. So they believed that she had seen this man because, like it seemed like they had gotten a few statements but hadn't really had enough to piece together much. So I think, I'm not sure with whose help, maybe the other people who maybe saw the car and along with this woman that called in, but in 2013, towards the end of it, the Civil Guard released a facial composite that was made by these new witness statements. They also described the suspect as between 35 and 40 back in 1997. They said he had a square and hardened face. They believed he was between 75 and 80 kilograms. At the time, he had short, spiky brown hair and drove a white Renault 18 with red upholstery. So, like, they released that to the public. And then they also included a confidential phone number and email address, which I don't really think it allotted to much, but it did say over the next 2 months they did receive about 100 emails. Yeah, but it didn't really seem like it amounted to any sort of investigation.
Yeah, no new leads.
No. Still in 2013, with the advancement of DNA testing and the use of genealogical websites. Woo!
Genealogy for the fucking win.
Right?
Oh my god.
It
Love
doesn't
it.
pinpoint who, but it kind of helps this go along, I guess. The
Yeah, it
killer,
can usually tell you that like a family line or
a little
something,
bit,
right?
yeah. This killer was finally revealed. So tests showed that the suspect had North African origins, and as a result, hundreds of people in the Algete community voluntarily, again, contributed their DNA profile to help the investigation, focusing on
Oh
people
wow.
with North African origins. Even people who had moved out of the town had provided samples. One of those men was Fao Chel, who had since moved from Algete to southern France. So he heard about it and he sent his DNA all the way from France. And thank God he did, because his profile revealed that he was a sibling of Ava's killer. And
Oh, okay.
yeah.
It's not that far away, really, but
No,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Well, he had
That's
lived
makes
there at the
sense.
time of the murder. He had since moved to France. So,
Right.
uh, yeah, a sample from their other
Damn.
brother, who never lived in Algete, his blood or his sample was also collected, and it also showed it was a sibling match. So he now confirmed it against two
Wow.
of his siblings. So, like, this is definitely
Oh my
your
God.
like
It's
relative.
it's the famous podcast, My Brother and Me. Sorry, my friend Caitlin listens to that, I think.
Oh, I've never heard of that. What is that?
You've never heard that one?
No.
Yeah. I I I guess it's three brothers. I mean, but
Okay. Yeah.
but like I've heard them talk about it sometimes on our D&D nights where I'm like, okay, is this like a famous podcast
Yeah.
with like three brothers that just shoot the shit? I guess I don't know.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, so
Yeah.
they've now confirmed this against two of the brothers, and as a result, an arrest warrant was issued for Ahmed Chela Gerj. Uh
Ooh.
yeah,
Right.
I think it's like Chell. I don't know. I tried looking up the pronunciation of their last name and I couldn't really find it, but he was an arrest warrant was issued out. I'm not exactly sure when, like how long it took to get like all the DNA verifications, because that was
Yeah.
happening. But he wasn't arrested until October 1st, 2015, outside of his place of work where he lived in France, with the help of
Okay.
like teaming up with the French authorities to like arrest him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Going into his side a little bit, Ahmed was 34 at the time of the murders. He was married to a woman who was 14 years younger than him. And at the
Oh.
time of this is what I hate. At the time of Ava's murder, Ahmed's wife was 5 months pregnant with their third child.
Oh. That's
He,
great, buddy. That's what you're
yeah,
out doing when your
right?
wife's at home pregnant.
Yeah, looking
Yeesh.
after your other two kids. Like, fuck you.
Exactly. Oh my God.
Uh, their family never seemed to be listed as residents of Algete, as they lived in a caravan that was parked near his work. This caravan was parked just 4 kilometers away from the murder scene. So like that construction site.
But they weren't listed as residents because it was a caravan, like not
I
a
guess
listed, like not a
so. Maybe it's
home.
not a like permanent address. I don't
Right,
know.
not a like a permanent dwelling, and that's on
Yeah.
the citizenship. What do they call those
Yeah.
things where they come around and do the surveys door to door, like the
Oh, like a
census or something?
census. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you guys don't count. It's like,
Yeah.
well, they do if they murder people.
Right? Yeah.
Kind of important.
Yeah. The family had actually moved to France in 1999, and the
Mm.
couple was described as separating amicably. And then the Chell guy, he remarried, this time to an even younger woman who was 24-year-old Moroccan student. Uh,
Okay.
and this time, at that time, he was like 52, I think, and he married a 24-year-old.
Okay. Well, I wasn't sure if you were going to say 24 years younger, but basically,
Yeah, it was basically half his age.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. And this couple, they ended up having 2 more children. So he now has 5 kids. And I don't know what happened to the first 3 kids. They're never mentioned again. But it said that his kids at the time of his arrest were 6 and an infant. So I don't know what happened to the first 3. Maybe they were with their mother.
Maybe a blessing that they didn't get included in all of the media then. Yeah, poor kids. Like, you don't get to pick what your parents do. Oh my god.
I do have a bit about what his friends and family and he kind of had to say when they, I guess, interrogated him. It said when told about the DNA evidence, he claimed that he had gone out for a walk alone when 2 unidentified men had grabbed him, brought him to Ava's body, and forced him to masturbate over it. That's his explanation.
Okay.
I
really believe that story.
Right? His ex-wife, however, told journalists that he had left that night in the company of his brothers, as they usually do on the weekends. She claimed that no one ever told her about that night until after his arrest, when one of the brothers said that they had been at the same disco as Ava and that they had talked to her after she had gotten an argument with her ex-boyfriend. Ava left the disco with the brothers at one point, but she went back inside with her friends around 11 p.m. His ex-wife also claimed that neither the police nor the civil guard had ever interrogated her or the brothers in the course of the investigation. So, like, the brothers presumably, like, they had some contact with her that night, and then she ended up dead. Whether they knew that their brother had left or, like, found her later that night. Like,
right.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not just somebody knew something in this case. We're, like, pretty sure who the people are who should have known something.
I'm like, at least finally the one brother, like, sent in his DNA. But I feel like they knew. I feel like they knew something had happened or that their brother was somewhat involved way before that.
Right, because it's like this other brother's DNA or whatever that alerted to this.
He voluntarily sent it in and they're like, oh shit, he's a match.
Okay.
He's a sibling, and he had voluntarily sent it from France when they had asked for more. Yeah.
They're like, what could
let's turn in my brother, see if he actually did it. Like, fuck.
Well,
both her and her youngest son denied that the dad had ever mistreated them, but she later admitted that he became aggressive when he drank. It said Blanco's family never met their family, but they did interact sporadically with his brother at most. One of the brothers there. The other one isn't really named, so I'm not sure which one.
Okay, so she did know the brothers somewhat.
Yeah, one of the brothers, like the family at least, might have known a little bit. A former coworker at the plant nursery where Chella worked said he was not very social. He was aggressive after drinking and a little pervy with women.
No. Just a great party guest.
Yeah, for everybody who you want to hang around with.
It's that uncle.
Former female customers also remembered him as, quote, a pervert, the kind that makes you feel bad when he's near.
Ew.
Which, shit. Yeah.
Oh my God. Literally a pervert. Yeah, that's not a good sign.
When Manuel and Olga were told that their daughter's killer had finally been arrested, Olga said, quote, it looks like God has heard me and given me some joy after so many years of suffering. I think this is a separate quote. It was a very emotional moment. The captain also got emotional when he told us about the rest, and he started to cry. Now I hope that justice will be done and that this man pays for everything he did to my daughter. Yeah.
Okay. Like, they're pretty sure it's him then. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the DNA, I think I saw somewhere it said it was, even when they were testing the siblings, it said there was like a 97 or 90% chance that he was an immediate sibling to like both brothers. So they're like, yeah, like it's your brother. Like there was no doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't get those kind of percentages before DNA.
Yeah.
Dang.
So jumping ahead a little bit, I can't remember what year this would be. Maybe 2015-ish. October 5th, Ahmed Chell unsuccessfully tried to cut his jugular vein with a small piece of glass in his cell. Because he sucks.
Yeah, apparently he even sucks at that. Like,
yeah. Sorry, but yeah.
No, it's just like you're causing yourself more pain. Anyway.
I think at this point he was still in France because it said just 5 days later he was deported to Spain and back in the custody of the civil guard. So I think that happened when he was in France. There was
So
a
maybe he was using it as a way to get moved. I wonder.
I think he was just trying to kill himself. But
and just sucked at that.
Maybe. At a preliminary hearing on October 13th, he declined to make a statement, but agreed to have his DNA taken, which proved he was the donator of all that semen. And he was formally charged with murder, rape, illegal detention, and he was to be held in prison until his trial. DNA testing proved beyond a doubt that he was Eva Blanco's killer.
Really?
Yeah.
They were like so unsure at first. They're like, oh yeah, she probably just had consensual sex. So it was just like,
yeah.
Okay, well, did she?
Yeah.
So,
wow. He tried to get released. Like there was a few appeals. I didn't want to get into it because it was like he doesn't deserve it. But all of these were like denied.
Yeah, there's a lot of that goes on. It's like, yeah, we don't need to get bogged down in all the
yeah. On the 8th of January 2016, a team of prison psychiatrists and psychologists supported the lifting of anti-suicide measures that had been placed on him since her arrest, as he had repeatedly requested they be lifted. At the next hearing, this would be January 15th, he claimed again 2 people forced him into the car, threatened him with that knife, that navaja, in order to make him like the ceremonial looking one, in order to make him ejaculate over Ava, who he said was still alive inside the car.
Oh, fuck. Gross. It's so bad.
He insisted at this like trial thing that he had never penetrated her, but when asked why his semen was found inside her body, he could not answer. Like, well,
oh God, that gives me a flashback to this book I was reading with the not Criminal Minds, but the
John Douglas
FBI Tyler guys. Yeah. Yeah, it was him and someone, one of the other ones, and they're like just
Robert Russler, I think, is the other one.
Yeah, I'm not sure if those were the exact 2 ones that just wrote this book, but like you're like, oh, they get the first peek inside the killer's minds, and some of them they have just such bizarre logic, like where they're like,
right?
oh, sure, I killed someone, but I could never rape them, and just like this weird stuff like that, where you're just like, I don't understand. This doesn't make any sense, but that's your logic, and okay,
their minds are so warped and just twisted, and
just trying to understand, but I just know I won't be able to.
I wish I had a happier or a happy note to end it on. My last 2 sentences are that on January, or I just put on January 2016. In January 2016. I don't know when. Ahmed Chell was found dead in his cell. He had hung himself with his shoelaces. Something else said bed sheets. I don't know, but he had hanged himself. Yeah. And then because of that, like the prosecution formally ended against him on February 15th, and they stopped pursuing anything, and then the case just basically was closed, and the end. Sadly, I don't have anything updated. I couldn't find anything from the family. A lot of the stuff is in Spanish, or was behind like subscription walls, and I couldn't access it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's
So I
frustrating.
don't know what the family has to say about that. The quotes about him being caught were like the last ones, and some of the only ones I ran across from her parents.
Well,
But
at least most of them lived to see him get caught. But yeah, what a
yeah,
fucking cowardly thing to do, to just take yourself
right?
out.
Yeah,
Man.
and like like you got away with it for how many years? Like,
Oh yeah, but the second they're in prison, it's like Israel
yeah,
Keys, where he was like, "Oh, I killed like almost like 50 people, but like I don't want my kid to find out about it, so I'd rather kill myself." He's like, "I'm pretty sure your name's gonna be pretty fucking famous, no matter if
yeah,
you kill yourself or not." Now, like,
yeah,
sorry, you've tainted your kid's legacy and whatever. Like, there's no going back. Yeah, they're
yeah,
just so stupid and like single-minded sometimes. You're just like, what? Like,
yeah. That logic makes no sense to me. Like, they're always gonna
right?
find out. They can Google you. Like, fuck, it's over.
Oh my God. No, they're
But
above everything.
I, I, yeah, this one stuck out with like the weird diary like code mystery, and then I think
Yeah.
too, just because she was so close, like to home, like presumably within sight
Oh,
of it, and
yeah, that part
yeah,
was really hard.
yeah,
That's
it
really sad.
just, and I do like the ones with all the like genealogy website testing, how that's able
I
to aid in
know.
investigation sometimes. I like that that was involved a little bit.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
because they'll be like completely stalled, and if you didn't have that, what are you gonna do?
yeah, because they at least were able to figure out, like, even if they couldn't have DNA to test it against, they could figure out like his ancestry, like the DNA samples ancestry, and be like, okay, they most likely are like have
Yeah.
this proportion of like different ancestries and different ethnicities, and this is their genetic makeup. So like this is probably what ethnicity they're probably look like, and this is what the type of people we should focus on that are like in that area.
Which is
So
crazy. And
yeah,
like because it's accurate usually in those cases.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it definitely did help. And
Yeah.
I yeah, I'm happy the brother sent in his DNA voluntarily, but I feel like he did know something, or at least had some sort of suspicions. If it's true what the ex-wife said, that the brothers like were at the disco and interacted with Ava, and then even left with her at one point, and then she went back to
Yeah.
the disco. That seems a little suspicious to me.
Yeah, I guess. I feel like there's another famous, infamous murderer person who was turned in by one of their siblings. I want to say the Unabomber,
I think
like,
so. Wasn't
cause
it his
like
brother and his brother's wife or
I
something?
was gonna say, yeah, a
Yeah.
sibling like recognized his voice or like writing or whatever, or both.
Yeah,
And it was
something
like,
like that. I'm
yeah,
sure it's
it's
happened
my
more
brother.
times than you
Right.
hear about, which I can't imagine. A lot of the sources were like they couldn't believe he was such a family man. Like he had five
Right.
kids, he had two different wives. They were everybody was like they claimed they were blindsided that he was capable of murder, and it was like, well,
Oh.
he did seem to be quite pervy towards young women, so
Oh, right. Yeah. They're like, no,
yeah.
we didn't think murder, but we did think pervy. It's like, well,
Yeah.
then obviously didn't trust him. Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
he's-
But
I don't know, sorry, that just made me laugh at that. Like, yeah, he's cool, Uncle Joe's cool, but he's pervy. You're like,
Yeah,
oh
he's a
yeah,
pervert.
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we can handle that. As long as he's not a murderer. Because those couldn't possibly go hand in hand.
Right? Yeah.
Um,
Actions couldn't possibly escalate or
oh
evolve.
no.
Yeah. But
Great
yeah,
job. Really
thank
great
you.
job. Yeah, that was fascinating.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hopefully everybody else did too. And
As much as you can enjoy a horrible true
yeah.
crime, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, very well told, and I didn't know that one, so
No,
if any.
I still haven't really been able to figure out why I thought the name was so familiar, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, because I definitely don't remember hearing the case. Once I got through all the details, I was like, there's no way I ever heard this anywhere. But yeah.
No, so many we don't.
Yeah.
They don't happen here or whatever. We're just like, huh? Yeah, so it's always
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
We will take a break and we'll come back. Part 2.
All right, mine's short, don't worry. Welcome back to this bullshit. We are here for part 2 of Spain crimes.
Yeah.
And I looked up some Spanish conquerors in history.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
I said, I don't think you'll come across this guy. I think I went a little bit back. So I guess this will just be a little bit about Spanish conquistador Nuno de Guzman.
Okay.
I think that's
I
how
like
we're
a
saying
conquistador. Such a fun word to say.
No, it is, isn't it? Maybe that's why everyone talks about the fucking Spanish Inquisition. Which we'll get to. He was born somewhere around 1490 to 1558 is when he lived.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago.
I know there's definitely like Spanish serial killers and stuff, and I just was like, but like there's also some in history, and I just kind of was like, maybe I'll look up and see.
I scrolled right past all of those. I was like, not this time.
Oh, did some come up in some of your lists?
I think when I just typed in like Spanish like murders or like true crime in Spain, like some of the first results are always going to be like the serial killers, the big right. ones, and then I kind of tried to scroll a little bit further and was like, I'm gonna do something.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I know, because everyone knows the big serial killers usually if they're from that country.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, maybe you guys don't know about this guy. I didn't. He was born in Guadalajara, Spain. Mm-hmm. His mother was Magdalena de Guzman, and his father was Hernan Beltran de Guzman, who was a wealthy merchant and high constable in the Spanish Inquisition.
Okay.
Speaking of, which was also called the Tribunal of the Holy Office of the Inquisition. And all I ever know about it is like the Monty Python, whoever goes, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Oh, okay.
Literally,
I was like, I know the name Spanish Inquisition. Everything I've ever learned about it, I have completely forgotten. But for some reason, I feel like it involves famine. Does it involve famine?
Oh, more religion from what I quickly gleaned.
For some reason, maybe I'm confusing it with something else where like they close off the city walls and then like the city inside basically like starves to death.
Oh, like a siege. Well, they probably did do things like that. They were just like basically trying to spread Catholicism, Christianity. It said its purpose was to maintain Catholic orthodoxy / replace the medieval Inquisition, which who knows how that went, but more spreading of religion and I guess Catholic religion at
like
this time.
missionary kind of stuff.
very violent
sending over sending over. We have to spread the word of our just Lord and Savior by force and killing a whole bunch of people.
Maybe the one that we just learned about, because we were probably pagan before this, but like, spread the word, or else we'll die too.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't know. I had that it was a little bit about that, because I always wondered what the fuck is the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah.
It was established quite a while ago in 1478 by the Catholic monarchs King Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabella of Castile. Who I remember Castile coming up in something I read recently, and I couldn't remember if it was research or a book, and I was like, oh cool, that is a real place then, I guess. Like, maybe I talked about it in the castles episode? Oh god, I don't know. Apparently there was also a Roman and a Portuguese Inquisition, so there was like a few Inquisitions, as it were.
I've never heard about any of those, or the medieval Inquisition, whatever it was.
They don't get the press.
Yeah. Let's start an Inquisition series, and we'll castles, cryptids, and Inquisitions.
Well, I can fucking rabbit hole on some of this, because like I mentioned a couple times in the notes how this reminded me of an episode I listened to that kind of talked about how or what Christopher Columbus actually did, and like versus what they were like told as an American growing up, with the like we'll touch on it a little, how it's a little bit sugar coated.
I think most of I would say like most of history is written by the victors, not the people who were overtaken or anything, so it can be very biased.
Exactly. I find my military hubby is want to say that, and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, it totally shapes the history, which history is very much, you can study it, but it's like, hard to pinpoint, and there's so many different versions and stuff. Okay, so he did a lot of stuff in his lifetime. This, I think it's Nuno, because it has that little like El Nino does.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's pronounced Nuno de Guzman. He acted as colonial administrator of New Spain, which is like Mexico.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's what it was called. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
I like how they just added new to the front of so many different places.
But some places it's stuck, right? We still have New York. We still have...
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in New Brunswick. Like, there's just so many places.
But like, what's old York? Where was York?
Well, York was in the UK. It's in Britain.
Yeah,
York
so
is
it's just like New York. Fuck.
Yeah.
I hate that. Like, just come up with a different name. Yeah. Is that why in Futurama it's New York?
Oh my god.
Because it's
Rain
the newer New York.
Into that. We know she loves The Simpsons, so we've been started watching Futurama, and then there's like newer episodes which we haven't seen. Anyway.
Okay, I'm somewhere in season 5 or 6 where they had like the 4-part like episodes of like mini movies, and then it's after they got canceled at least the first time. Which I was trying to look it up.
Arrested Development, where they'll make jokes that reference the fact that they were like canceled. You're like, hey.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
They pretty like when they came up in like the 90s, early 2000s, they were like using technology that hadn't really existed yet, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like, oh, tablet thingies, even though they didn't call them like tablets. Whatever. Yeah. All right. All that to say, New Spain is Mexico now. So this guy was governor of the province of Panuco, and also in a place called Nueva Galicia from 1529 to 34. So we're in the 1500s.
Woo.
Wonderful time. No, I don't know. No toilet paper, but I'm sure it was fine. No forks. Whatever.
Oh.
Right?
I could not do it. I'm sorry. I couldn't survive.
We used our hands for everything. He became president of what was called the First Royal Audiencia of Mexico, which was the high court that governed New Spain from 1528 to 1530. I don't know when they started calling it Mexico. I just know they called it the Royal Audiencia of Mexico this time, maybe.
Sometime between the 20s and 30s, it seems.
Oh my god, it's so confusing. I'm like, oh no, I got into history. What am I doing? Must cut down things or I will, freaking, yeah. Well, you know how it is. Some history is boring and some of it's interesting. So I've kept the interesting parts. He did found a few cities in, especially northwestern Mexico, including one called Guadalajara, which I thought was awesome because I'm like, he was born in Guadalajara, as I learned. So he literally named it after his birthplace, which I'm like, this is how we get some of those names.
Yeah. Nice.
And like nowadays, I would like know Guadalajara, Mexico, but did not know there was a Guadalajara, Spain, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. He originally worked for a time as a bodyguard to Charles I of Spain. So it was one of his like first jobs. Then asked to move on to what would later become Mexico in around 1525. So he's off to the coast to take up his post in like the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
Apparently he was sent specifically to kind of counterbalance the rising power of the leader of the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire, which was Hernan Cortez.
I've heard of him.
I know. I felt like I heard of him too.
Yeah.
I was like, Cortez. So apparently the Spanish king was worried that Cortez was getting too powerful down there. So he sent Guzman as someone to, kind of rival him or whatever.
Go try and intimidate the Aztecs with their cutting out of hearts while you're alive.
Oh my god, right? Well, and this guy's considered the leader of this conquest of the Aztec Empire. So I'm like, I don't know. What the fuck you guys think you did to conquest them? And he traveled there with another like famous name-dropping sort of guy, Luis Ponce de Leon. But some people, like the Cortez stands, were not happy with this. They didn't like Guzman or whatever. But others, like the Council of Indies, the Spanish Crown, and the Spanish conquistadors, who felt they had not received what they considered sufficient rewards from Cortez's distribution of encomiendas. Loot, I guess. I don't know. That's what they called it in the Spanish word.
Yeah, I think the Aztecs hoarded a shit ton of gold. Didn't they? They had like a lot of gold and stuff that they kept.
That would make sense because the Spanish seem to become known for the gold that they take, almost.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. It makes sense. Yeah, of course, other people, like Spanish settlers who had no dog in the fight of the conquest, but they were like, position and wealth and stuff that maybe we could come into if Cortez isn't up there blocking every young man. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's start a revolution.
Viva la revolution.
Yeah.
While he was acting as governor of Panuco, he was pretty strict and harsh, apparently, especially when punishing Cortez's supporters, which he then stripped them of like their rights and their property.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, I guess seems pretty standard though.
Yeah, it's of the time.
But maybe that's because I kept reading things that honestly said he was so cruel that I expected to be like, okay, well, what did he do? And then I was like, well, these all just seem so biased.
Hanging people by their toenails, ripping out eyeballs, something.
Yeah. Where's the Mad King Targaryen? No.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll kind of get to that. He stripped them of their rights and property, and then sorry, I don't know if I said this, pushing into the northwestern regions, he enslaved thousands of indigenous people and shipped them off to the Caribbean colonies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he did. There was a lot of slavery going on then, but he did ship off a lot through slavery. Yeah. Not great. Definitely not if that was you. You're like, no, I'm not.
No.
Right. We discovered this land. No, you didn't.
Yeah, there was already people here.
Right? Oh my god. Apparently relations were not improved when in 1530 he tortured and then executed Kazansi or Kazanchi, not sure how you say it, the Tarascan ruler of a place called Michoacan. And he was an ally of Cortez's, so that's why obviously we didn't like him, or Nuno didn't like him.
Yeah.
And then, Nuno went on to make himself enemies in the church of several clergymen in particular, like just making enemies everywhere he goes. But he continued as governor of New Galicia until his ultimate arrest, which I had to add, much like Columbus. He was also arrested after his stint in the New World. So Guzman was arrested in 1537 for treason, abuse of power, and mistreatment of the indigenous inhabitants of his territories. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they did kind of care if you were like
overly I'm actually
shitty.
Surprised that yeah.
Right? Like we kind of thought like, oh, we thought of them as like amazing, but also they were kind of tyrants. It's like, well,
yeah.
Maybe it was somewhere in between and we're just, painting with a broad brush. But yeah, he was actually reprimanded. He was jailed in the area for about 18 months before he was shipped back off to Old Spain in shackles. So he was treated much like some of the people he enslaved and had shipped off, which I thought was pretty fitting. But yeah, he was generally seen as very cruel and a tyrant. Most of what we happen to know about him seems to come from Cortez's cronies, such as a guy called Francisco Lopez de Gomara. Gomara always makes me think of Marvel now. No. It was he who said, if Nuno de Guzman had been as good a governor as he was a warrior, he would have had the best place in the Indies. But he behaved badly to both. He used the word, an I word, Indians, which is not the right word. Should have said indigenous, but that's how the quotes go. I hate to use it, so we'll just say indigenous. And Spaniards. So that's what his enemy said about him, and the only real accounts we have from him, Guzman himself, seem to be his notes of correspondence, so like his letters.
Okay. So
it's easy to kind of, I think, make him out to be a little bit of a bad guy, maybe.
Yeah.
While often portrayed as a fan of the cruel, unusual sort of punishment, he was initially supported by the Spanish crown, who, after all, sent him overseas.
They freaking picked him.
Oh yeah, they're like, you go over there. Cortez is getting a little bit out of hand. Like, why don't you just go see what's going on?
Yeah.
And yeah, his actions were kind of par for the course at the time, using these kind of heavy-handed colonial practices, shall we say, which is how I liked how someone else put it. So I put it in there. Yeah. Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, there's something to be said for history being written by the victors, sometimes being Guzman's enemies in this case, and more supporters of Cortez, who we've more heard of, so it kind of makes sense. Yeah, people like Cortez, some of his cronies, Juan de Zumamega and Vasco de Quiroga. That's probably not how you say it, but I tried. Said Bernal Diaz del Castillo, a Cortes crony, in all the provinces of New Spain, there was not another man more foul and evil than Guzman of Panuco.
Foul and evil.
Right? No specifics. He's just a mean girl of his enemy. Maybe.
Yeah, I find it weird that they don't like specifically really seem to say much.
Well, that's what I was finding. I was trying to research more. Like, oh, this guy's so cruel. Like, what did he do? Yeah. And then, like, you can't really find anything specific. So, like,
interesting. I'm sure it's out there if, like, so many people say something, but yeah, I'm surprised there doesn't seem to be, like, a record somebody's written somewhere be like,
yeah, a little bit more specific accounts, personal accounts.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, a little bit kind of that might address that. Oh, but did I say this? One biographer, which, like, right, this is the guy you want doing your biography, said he had cruelty of the highest order, ambition without limit, a refined hypocrisy, a great immorality, ingratitude without equal, and a fierce hatred for Cortes.
Wow.
Like, okay.
Sounds so grandiose. It's like,
right?
He's the worstest. He's the bestest at being the worst.
Oh yeah. What, you guys lovers? Because you're all talking like you know everything he thinks. Oh my god. Still others disagree, especially looking back now, almost the opposite of what happened with Christopher Columbus, sort of. In my opinion, because his sort of romanticized history might be considered what's called sometimes a golden legend.
Okay, I don't think I've heard of that before.
No, I don't think I had either, but it's kind of like it's a sugar-coated version, sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I was thinking of when I would just listen to on Christopher Columbus and how apparently some of what helped translate or like get his story going was this translation by the guy who wrote Sleepy Hollow. Which is so weird that it came back to him to like translate it from fucking Spanish or whatever the fuck. And then like also at the same time I think they were fighting against weird Italian stereotypes where people remember like people were like so racist against Italians in like early America and stuff, and we do true crime cases where they're like, we don't serve Italians here, or like Irish or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like I was listening to the Cons podcast where like he's like, yeah, maybe it just had to do with the kind of resurgence of the Italian whatever, the Sleepy Hollow author was like, oh yes, I really want this guy to look good and I'm gonna retell this Chris Columbus tale and make sure that like he comes out looking awesome kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh damn. This is all what we were like based a lot of its like school teachings on and stuff for whatever long.
Yeah, they're like, this tale is based on a sort of true story.
Right, but it's more of a folktale.
Yeah. It's like playing the telephone game and everything just gets warped by time.
I know, but it is a lot of what history is in a way.
Yeah.
Things get reported that way.
So all it takes is somebody leaving out a small detail every time it gets retold, and then by the end, it's nothing like it was at the beginning.
Oh, totally. Oh, Gordo.
I know, he's trying to roll into the laptop. I'm stopping him right now. He's laying on his back with his arms up, like, eh.
You bastard.
Yeah.
You
look so floofy and soft, though.
Oh. I did see a video where a guy was trying to free a very tiny, soft-looking monkey who had his arm stuck in like a little bamboo shoot or tube or something. I don't know. I was watching something else on stupid Facebook, and then it was like, watch this. And I was like, but I don't want to. Oh, now I'm invested. Get that monkey out.
Yeah, Instagram's always trying to get me to watch videos of stray animals getting rescued, and I was like, why is everybody recording themselves trying to save all these animals all the time?
They want you on all the fucking algorithms.
Yeah, I was like, I have not once ever typed in to intentionally watch a single one of these videos. So why the fuck you're showing it to me endlessly?
No, they're too stressful.
Yeah.
So on the other side of this golden legend thing exists a black legend. Did I say this? No.
No, I was gonna say shit legend.
Yeah, basically. A black legend is one wherein the major players seem to be painted in a much worse light than necessary. Those are my words. But apparently the black legend has painted the Spanish culture with a black brush for quite some time. Even Wikipedia said the black legend or the Spanish black legend is a historiographical tendency which consists of anti-Spanish and anti-Catholic propaganda.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like interesting. I mean, the religious anti-freedom was hard all these centuries, so like,
yeah, I've heard before they say almost every like culture and ethnicity basically at some point in history had at least one other culture or ethnicity that they were basically like subjugating and like using as slaves or hated or
probably
every
not
single
just
one
one
of
they
them.
based themselves off. I thought you were gonna say like one
No,
origin.
like throughout history, almost every culture and ethnicity and something has fully hated like at least one other. Like there's always one. Everybody has at least one.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah, and then some of the books I read, because you know I love my historical books lately, to be like, well, they came to the New World and they bring their fucking same religious traumas and divisions and problems with them. So like, why wouldn't you have the same problems? Because you're still having these religion infighting and whatnot. Yeah, that's what they, and I get that's what they try to come out of with the United States, like a complete freedom of religion, but. Yeah, you guys did okay. I'm still glad to be from Canada.
I know. I think Canada does slightly better, but not by much.
No, I mean I feel like we have less. I'm not like concerned like, oh, school shootings, like where my kid goes to school. I'm not like, oh my god, she's gonna get shot up at school. I feel like less concerned for that, but also we're like just over the border. Like we're not that different from them. We have a lot of the same problems.
Yeah, I feel like we're just a little bit better maybe at separating the like church and state kind of stuff. I feel like our like religious stuff isn't quite in there other than like protecting somebody's like freedom of like religious practice and that kind of stuff. We don't have too much that's like religiously motivated like legislature or laws and that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Well, we shouldn't have to. Anyway.
Gordo, you little shit. Yeah. Just stop.
Gordo.
Buddy.
What's he doing? I saw his tail a minute ago.
He keeps stretching up and like ripping at the stickers and then trying to go behind the laptop and then rolling over and hitting me. And if you could see him right now.
No, I have less than a page, okay, buddy? Let me get through it.
He's a fish out of water over here.
Yeah, no, it's obviously still emerging and going on, but
yeah.
Okay, one of the examples they used was like, okay, so say for example, English people emigrated to the New World for opportunity and a fresh start, while if Spanish people emigrated to the New World, they were gold hungry and cruel conquistadors.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I kind of was like, okay, I understand what they're saying, where they're like, it's just a bias, like.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be doing it for the good reasons I'm doing it for. It's like a personal bias people have. Yeah. But we always seem to have against people that are, God forbid, not exactly like us.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I found a quote that said, like, here's more on the positive side of it. So, numerous Native Americans gladly received counsel from the Spaniards, legal aid, and spiritual guidance. So, not everything that might have come to deal upon them like smallpox was bad, but there was a lot going on there.
Yeah.
It said, or sorry, this quote was also from a Medium article. The Spanish rulers put a new government into place to help the natives receive legal counsel and protection. The Spaniards wanted to make the Native Americans feel more comfortable with these new changes, so they created numerous laws to protect the rights of the Native Americans and to protect them from outside nations. So it would seem
Like them?
Yeah, like them. I know it seems like they have good intentions, but then I'm like trying to unpack it all, and it's like, oh my god, so much.
It probably had a small clause in there that was like, well, it only lasts 100 years or something, and then it's like, and then everything goes away.
What? How do you know? Like, you're reading about this one person who's like, your beliefs. Like, did you have a diary? Because your beliefs won't be recorded.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to get through. So they had fairly good relations in a lot of cases. I guess I said that financial growth was kind of seen on both parties when they came to play. But yeah, it definitely wasn't all bad for the Native Americans. The Native Americans, quote, received different types of refuge and counsel from the Spanish. The Spanish. The Spanish. I'm so sorry.
From the spinach.
I know. I was like, that just sounded like I said spinach. And spirituality was one form. A huge part of the Spanish voyage was to share their religious faith with others, and the Spanish successfully did that during this time. The majority of Spanish missionaries did not force their faith upon the natives, and in return, many natives welcomed the new faith. Many Native Americans accepted the Spaniards' faith and soon incorporated Christian practices and baptism into their own rituals. Which I just included and ended on, I guess, because you do find that where like the different religions kind of meld together, like Christian, pagan, whatever, and they just kind of like adopt into a new thing as the new factions take over, I guess.
Yeah. Oh my god, Gordo. Can you chill? Can you chill? He just looked at me like, no, Gordo. No, I cannot. Okay, bye.
I know you're frustrated,
Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out.
Where is his people usually from? He's a Siamese. Is he like technically Asian?
I don't know. His coloring is called Blue Point.
He's so very pretty.
All ragdoll cats are descendant from one specific cat.
No way.
Yeah, and all like true ragdoll cats will supposedly only ever have blue eyes.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
that seems almost supernatural.
Yeah, the first cat had like blue eyes. So yeah,
which
and then
not,
like people.
That's not a dominant trait. That's like a recessive trait usually.
And then there was one girl that like owned basically the pet and had like all the breeding things, and then somebody owned like the breeding rights to like ragdoll cats for a number of years. It was like a whole thing. I tried looking it up and I was like, this is fucking crazy.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
It sounds interesting, but also not like a whole segment where you're like, this is what happened to domesticate this type of cat.
Yeah. But I was like, although interesting, because I was like, Gordo does have blue eyes. He has the pretty light blue eyes. So I was like, okay.
Pretty.
But he's not eyes. He's a little derpy. He's not a pure ragdoll though, because his mom was hairless.
Right.
And his dad was the ragdoll, so.
That's the part I always have a hard time keeping track of. Mom was a hairless, so like a sphinx. His mom was a sphinx. So like Rachel has
a hairless a hairless cat, and then the floofiest cat had a baby, and his name was Gordo, and he's a little
and
derpy.
The droopiest cat.
He's a little cross-eyed and derpy. Didn't grow out of his "I'm a child" phase, because they're after like 3, when they get fully grown, they're supposed to mellow out, and like ragdolls are supposed to be very chill. Some of them won't even play or like need a scratching post. Sometimes they won't even jump on furniture. They're that lazy. They just lay on the floor. And I'm like, that is not right.
If you're that lazy about them, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it was like, that's like me standing at the counter doing dishes, and Gordo runs into the room and parkours off the middle of my back and then launches like 15 feet across the room onto and hits the wall like sideways, and then launches off the wall and lands on the floor, and then just goes meow. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? Like,
God love having pets. Like, I just don't
felt like I got hit by a truck. I just all of a sudden I'm just slammed against the counter, just standing there.
Amazing.
But yeah, I'm just like, oh, when's he supposed to be out of the baby cat mind phase? And I was like, oh yeah, like almost a year ago. I was like, yeah, right? He's definitely like, not growing out of it.
Yeah, Fen chased his tail for a very long time.
That's cute.
Yeah.
What are we doing next week?
Parapsychology, I think.
Yeah. I have pseudoscience, so mine won't be parapsychology related, but
it will be not science, but kind of sciencey.
Mine's sciencey, but it's debunked science, so it should be fun. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Okay. Well, all our longtime listeners will definitely know that recording a podcast is not always easy. Nope. So you better believe, like, when we find something we like, that we're gonna probably stick to it and not look for anything else. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love Zencaster. When we tried it, we were like, okay, finally, I wanted to have the video, and it's up to 4K video, which is pretty effing cool. I can see every pore on Kelsey. No, I'm just kidding.
I hope not.
But it's a great video, and like just really easy on this one. So like once we stopped recording on our phones, I was like, yeah, this is the one for us. So even though sometimes our computers fuck up, it always comes through for us in the end, because we've never lost like a recording, knock on wood, and every time we've had to use it, it's just been really great and really easy, and everything's just recorded when we wanted it to, which is, it's a lot to ask for when you podcast as much as we do.
Yeah. It's nice that each of us has our own separate audio recording that you can download and edit. So it makes when one of us is doing something or has something, it's easy. You can edit that out even with the other person was talking, because you have 2 separate tracks that you can edit. Yeah, it's one of the reasons we love Zencaster. Definitely, it makes it a lot easier. And the audio quality is also a lot better than any of the other programs we tried using in the past.
Yes, it is the best. So go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code cryptic, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan.
We want you to have the same easy experience as we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.
Keep it cryptic. Thank you for listening to Castles and Cryptids. We love all our listeners and appreciate every subscriber, every new review, every listen, rate, and download. Our music is by Kobe Off Air, and our cover art is by Antonio Garcia. We are also a proud member of Darkcast Network, where you can find the best and spookiest of all indie podcasts.
Follow us on social media, where we are at Castles and Cryptids on mostly all of the things, now including TikTok. Check out our bonus content on Patreon. Cryptid clashes, video minisodes of your hosts making asses of themselves, Ask Me Anything, quizzes, other special episodes, and more. Starting at just $2 a month, you can get 1 to 2 extra episodes, depending on your level. We produce, edit, and research everything ourselves, and any support you can lend helps us to keep it cryptic.